for something completely different.
Okay, there we go. Welcome to the August 12th, 2019 version of AoT, Armor of Truth Radio. And tonight we're going to get into the topic of artificial intelligence in medicine. Is that a thing? Is that real? Is it really artificial? Is it really intelligent? Are they making life in a laboratory? Are they creating life out of technology? Are they creating sentient beings that can think and reason and have our best interests in mind? Can technology have a mind? Come on. Let's be serious. We're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. So, first of all, let's get into a little bit of this. I want to show you the website so you folks know where it is. armoroftruth.net. Come join, come register so you can take part in the forums. If you click on forums, you'll see that the internet is very slow, at least here. So if you register, we have forum topics that will grow as we see a need. Right now we have prayer request forum, we have Bible questions forum, a forum for sharing your testimony, and I'll post a general discussion forum up there too. And also, if you are moved so, you can donate to this ministry. One of the easiest ways to do that is to follow the link in the description to this video or come to armourofTruth.net and at the donate tab. There's even an option for you to be monthly, to make a donation that comes out monthly, and that would be appreciated as well. And to those who have contributed to this ministry so far, thank you very much. Okay. So I've been busted. I've been outed. It's very clear that I'm a shill for the industry, that I am a wolf in sheep's clothing, that I have brothers down at the lodge, or that I have been initiated into the Illuminati. Yes, that's me. How do I know that I'm a shill? Look, obviously. Look at that guy. Look at that hand signal he's making right there. Look at this guy. He looks a lot like me. This is funny. Josh Gilbert shared this with me. This is funny. I appreciate it. It was a good laugh. It was funny. I appreciate him sharing this with me. So there you go. There you have it. If you're out on the internet, if you're in public in this form, somebody somewhere is gonna catch you doing something wrong, right? I don't know. You know, for the first 80% of my life, maybe about the first 90% of my life, that was just something that meant okay, or right on, or excellent. But today, it's very clear that if you make that hand gesture there, you're a Satanist. You're in the Illuminati. So there you go. You've seen me now. I'm busted. That is my signal to all my brothers down at the lodge, all of the elites, my handlers. That's what it is. It's actually the signal to my handlers. I'm about to say something important or whatever. Anyway, that's fun. I thought I'd share that with you. Now, for more fun, a tweet from CNN. This is from August 1st, 2019. Have you ever noticed the popularity of white robots? Yes. The reason for these shades of technological white may be racism, according to new research. I don't know. Could it also be that no pigment is the most efficient way to produce a product? Cheapest way? Yeah. But of course, in today's world, we have to break everything down into a dialectic of right and wrong, black and white. It has to be presented to you as though you can, as though you have two extreme opposite choices to make. So when you look at a robot and you see that it's made out of white material, you're supposed to be offended. You're supposed to be put off by that. It goes on to say, a robot racism? Yes, says a study showing humans' biases extend to robots. Of course they do. There's a reason most human-shaped robots are white, say researchers, and the reason is not productive at all. I would beg to differ with that. If you talk to engineers, an engineer will tell you very quickly why robots are made out of white material. So let's read some of these. Here, it looks right at the top, very interesting, on August 1st. Looks like Styx Hexenhammer has left a comment right at the top. Says, he's in reply to this CNN tweet, says, it is racist to not like the nighttime as much as the daytime. It's a very good point from Styx Hexenhammer. As much as we may differ in theology or spirituality, that is a very sensible quote or bit of satire that he's offered for us there, or irony. I'm not sure which it is. Insinuating that if you happen to be a night person, then you favor one race or the other. If you happen to be a day person and you like the daylight better than the night, then you're clearly a racist. Another tweet here from the Dark Lord of the Sith. If you've ever wondered why covert ops and stealth units wear all black during missions, a new study finds that it might be because of the racist notion that blacks are sneakier. Now, there's a good point. That looks like a good point. It's a good joke. That's funny. From the Dark Lord of the Sith. Clearly from this picture, appears to be a black gentleman, so that's a very funny point. From AT Constantine. My God, this won the internet. Thank you. Deceptibot 5000 said, I ever wonder why so-called black belts in martial arts are, statistically, more aggressive and violent? The answer may surprise you. Monica Davis said, ever wonder why bones are white? 14 reasons why skeletons may be the new symbol of white supremacy. So you see what's happening here. There is an agenda being pushed by the media, by the mainstream element of this world. But among average people, it's completely ridiculous. Nonetheless, we're all afraid to say anything or think anything even. So that's interesting. That's enough of that. That we got the top responses to that. So that's a little bit from CNN from August the 1st. It's a serious article. Okay, and also in other news, how about this? Sarah Silverman has been fired from a job after blackface photo of her resurfaced. It was already out there. Now, keep in mind that Sarah Silverman thinks if you voted for Donald Trump, you're a racist. You couldn't possibly be anything but a racist if you voted for Donald Trump. That's her position. But this, and for those of you who might be on audio, listening to this on audio in the future, I have a picture of Sarah Silverman in her blackface with the quotation, I look like the beautiful Queen Latifah. An old skit from many years ago that Sarah Silverman did. So the comedian says she was let go from a movie project after producers became aware of a 2007 comedy sketch in which she wore blackface. 2007. This happens all the time. I wouldn't come to Sarah Silverman's defense for really anything. She can take care of herself. And I know that these people they're populists. They do and say whatever is expedient in the moment to be popular in that moment. So, but anyway, let's hear what she has. She has said she was recently fired from a film after producers unearthed a still of her in 2007 wearing blackface for a comedy sketch. She was guesting on the Bill Simmons podcast. Silverman said that she was let go the day before shooting on her scenes was due to start because of the photo taken on the set of the now defunct Sarah Silverman show. Here's the quote. I recently was going to do a movie, a sweet part. Then, at 11 p.m. the night before, they fired me because they saw a picture of me in blackface from that episode. I didn't fight it. They hired someone else who is wonderful. but who has never stuck their neck out. It was so disheartening. It just made me real sad. Because I really kind of devoted my life to making it right. Okay, a couple things here. She says I didn't fight it. She's taking the high road. That's a respectable perspective. She says they hired someone else who is wonderful, but who has never stuck their neck out. So the way she describes her decision to don the blackface and make a comedy sketch out of that, she calls that sticking her neck out. She's also been quoted saying she'll say anything or do anything as long as it's funny enough. And I bring this up because these are the people, these celebrities are the ones that much of this culture looks to for their cues, for guidance in how to behave in the world. So I think it's very interesting, this point she makes, that they gave the job to someone who has never stuck their neck out. Now, she'll say that if you voted for Donald Trump, you're clearly a racist. Not that you were duped into believing his populist message, and now that he has done a heel turn in his jackboots, many people will probably have a different opinion of Donald Trump now. But aside from that, it's very interesting that she says it's her sticking her neck out to do this. She did not name the film that she was fired from, saying that the current climate had left her feeling fearful. I think it's really scary, and it's a very odd thing that it's invaded the left primarily, and the right will mimic it, adding that she dubs it righteousness porn. Well, we all know where this came from. And I'm not a right-winger or a left-winger. I see no reason to claim one side or the other. But it's very interesting that right off the bat, you'll find a way to point out the other party, or the other opinion here, or the other worldview. She says it's a very odd thing that it's invaded the left primarily, and the right will mimic it, as though the other folks can't have original thoughts. So they're just going to mimic the bad behavior. They're going to mimic our bad behavior. What this is this culture, this social justice warrior culture, is going to eat itself. It can go no other way. But there is a certain level of cultural programming that will succeed in the process to this movement imploding. It's thesis, antithesis. And what they want is a synthesis. They don't want either one of the extremes. They're moving the culture toward a planned outcome. She also says it's like if you're not on board, if you say the wrong thing, if you had a tweet once, everyone is like throwing the first stone. She continued. I wonder where she got that euphemism from. It's so odd. It's a perversion. It's really, look how righteous I am, and now I'm going to press refresh all day long to see how many likes I get in my righteousness. So she's really complaining about herself. This is the mindset of celebrity culture today that's been overrun with social justice warrior mindset. There she is again in all her glory. This is a quote from Sarah Silverman. She says, well, if I'm not afraid to say something, I'm not afraid to say something. if I think it's funny, even if it's harsh or racist. I'm not saying whether that thought's right or wrong. I'm just saying it's interesting that when the system attacks one of its own, it's very interesting to see how that someone reacts. And here's another interesting quote from Sarah Silverman. She says, "People are always introducing me as Sarah Silverman, the Jewish comedian. I hate that. I wish people would see me for who I really am. I'm white. All you racists that voted one way or the other." All right, so there we go. There's your catch up on a couple news items. And now let's get into the meat of the show for today. So this is a organization, a corporation called Babylon Healthcare. And it says here, Babylon believes it is possible to put an accessible and affordable health service in the hands of every person on earth. How? By combining the ever-growing computing power of machines with the best medical expertise of humans to create a comprehensive, immediate, and tailored health service and making it available throughout the world. I think it's clear that where there is a push for capacity, you can find a pharmaceutical company right behind it. The purpose of this is to sell drugs, sell more and more prescriptions. It can be no other. Talk to a doctor anytime, anywhere. Get a prescription anytime, anywhere. Get your antidepressants anytime, anywhere. Babylon partners with leading health systems and clinicians to bring licensed clinicians to you. Here's some examples of conversations and how the quote-unquote AI will deal with you in real time. Now, see, we're not even talking about an actual physician on the other end. We're talking about what they call artificial intelligence responding to you. You're going to pick up your phone, open an app, and interact with a computer that's going to diagnose you. What's interesting is one of the studies, I think it's in one of the tabs here, but in case it's not, I'll tell you about it here. One of the studies that I read showed in diagnostics, when their artificial intelligence, their machine learning, their computer system went up against doctors in proper diagnoses when comparing symptoms. The computer, the machine learning, had the correct diagnosis over 80%. I think it was 85% of the time got the right diagnosis. And doctors got the right diagnosis 72% of the time. Now, that's used as a way to pump up the AI, to really make the computer healthcare, this machine, this computerized healthcare look very good and useful. But what's the real story there? The real story is how terrible are the doctors at making diagnoses. And we've put all our faith in the medical industry up to this point. And now they're trying to convince us that the way to go, the way of the future, is to just skip human interaction altogether, that it will be more useful. And in the process of doing that, we see some truths at how pathetic corporate doctors who work within the corporate healthcare structure, those are the only doctors I'm talking about. There are physicians. There are true physicians who work outside of the corporate healthcare machine, who do private medicine, who don't have to follow the Merck manual. But as far as these corporate healthcare providers, they're pretty awful at making diagnoses. But we're supposed to assume that the artificial intelligence is going to be better at that. Well, we know that the artificial intelligence is not artificial at all. It's got to be programmed. The algorithms have to be programmed by someone. There is always the wizard behind the curtain. Babylon's AI services provide health information only, for now. Do not provide a diagnosis. Yet, the AI services respond to the information entered, and the information provided is based on risk factors and statistics. The statistic, the comparison that I quoted you a moment ago was from a test run, was from an experiment that was done using this particular service as a diagnostic tool. It's not yet, at least according to this, it's not yet being used for diagnosis. But of course, clearly, that's the goal, or what else would be the point? It says the AI services are not a substitute for a doctor yet, and should never be used in a medical emergency. What's an emergency? There are plenty of articles of critics of this system where folks who were having heart attacks were misdiagnosed, were mistreated. Babylon Health Check puts your health in your hands. Sort of. You see the claims that are made? Babylon Health Check puts your health in your hands. It actually puts access to the system in your hands. It's not really putting your health in your hands unless you decide to extricate yourself from the corporate healthcare industry. Then you're actually taking your health into your hands. So the point of this is we want to understand what is this artificial intelligence that they're talking about. So they're very kind. They have a section in their About page, Artificial Intelligence for Machine-Based Health Diagnosis. So you see there, the point of this service is diagnosis. Artificial intelligence for machine-based health diagnosis. This is from an article on their About section dated 6th of November 2018 by the Babylon Health Team, U.S. Part 1, Introduction to Terms, Core AI Concepts. This is the first in a multi-part series on applied artificial intelligence for healthcare diagnosis. All right. The term artificial, this is from their About section, where they're going to help us understand what artificial intelligence actually is. Now, we know that when we're presented with the idea of artificial intelligence, we're given the idea that it's going to be a sentient being that exists and thinks for itself and needs no input. That doesn't exist. If that ever does exist, what a horrible nightmare that would be. It would have no use for human beings. It may as well just diagnose us all to die. But that's nothing to worry about because it's not very likely. Okay, so the term artificial intelligence, AI, dates back more than 60 years to the mid-1950s. It refers to what appears to be learned intelligence by computers. This contrasts to natural intelligence found in humans and animals. There we go. There's some truth. In that case, intelligence is both learned and genetically inherited. The learning process for humans has a formal and social component. For humans and animals, the learning is an essential ingredient of survival. They must absorb and comprehend information about their environment and surroundings, make decisions, and adapt as needed for survival. For artificial intelligence, this is much more of a force-feeding process of information and learning into a mathematical representation. The science of artificial intelligence relies on several disciplines, approaches, and techniques over the past 60 years. The application of these techniques varies tremendously depending on what area of interest is being addressed, the state of computational speed and algorithmic efficiency, and of course, the availability of data. Research in the artificial intelligence area is vibrant, ongoing, and an area of significant investment and profit. New techniques, algorithms, and approaches are constantly being introduced and refined. Rarely does one singular technique solve big problems like patient diagnosis, but rather the creative combination plays a bigger role in reality. So they're telling you the truth right there. Artificial intelligence is nothing. It's not intelligent at all. It's not sentient. We can look at the terms, we can look at these words, artificial and intelligence, and we can find out why they've chosen these terms, artificial and intelligent. The word that we want to use when we say it's not that is sentient. That means alive, able to discern independently. Sentience. So how about artificial? Let's go to Webster, 1828. Dictionary of the English Language. Artificial, made or contrived by art. We know art, artifice. That which is created by man, that which is not natural. Doesn't come from the natural world, it is artifice. Made or contrived by art or by human skill and labor in opposition to natural. So artificial. We can see that if you're a humanist and you want to exalt the human being over the creation and over the creator, that's a good term to use. Artificial. It's almost the same word as humanistic. Artificial. The second definition is feigned, fictitious, not genuine or natural. Contrived with skill or art. Contrived. So let's replace words now. Artificial intelligence or contrived intelligence. Now see, there we go. Now we're getting down to the truth. Cultivated, not indigenous, not being of spontaneous growth. Inventions. These are inventions. Artificial intelligence. Let's look at intelligence. Again, this is Webster's 1828 Dictionary of the English Language. Comes from the Latin intelligentia, from intellio, meaning to understand. This verb is probably composed of inter, or intus, meaning within, and lego, to collect, to bring within. The primary sense of understand is generally to take or hold. As we say, to take one's ideas or meaning. Okay, so the first definition is understanding and skill. Intelligence is understanding, skill. Secondly, notice, information communicated, an account of things distant or before unknown. Commerce, of acquaintance. Terms of intercourse, which is, intercourse is another word for business. Intelligence, the fourth definition, very interesting. A spiritual being. As a created intelligence, it is believed that the universe is peopled. There's a sentence: it is believed that the universe is peopled with innumerable superior intelligences. And so in the verb form, it is to inform, to instruct. So let's change the words. Artificial intelligence, contrived skill, contrived understanding, contrived intercourse, cultivated intercourse. How about feigned, fictitious? How about fictitious understanding? That is a synonym for artificial intelligence, fictitious understanding. Doesn't sound so good when you break down the terminology. It's a pretty good article, though, or a pretty good piece they've written in their About section explaining a bit about the truth about artificial intelligence. But in doing so, they're not really painting a positive picture of that which they claim to be able to offer in their service. Historically, we have seen many false dawns for artificial intelligence over the past 60-plus years. Expectations for how quickly artificial intelligence can advance and meet true, real-world needs has constantly run decades ahead of reality. There's a reason for that, because the idea of a sentient being that sits over there in the corner and makes decisions with no input is impossible. That can't happen. I know there's plenty who'll disagree with me and say that I'm being a Luddite, I'm crazy, I'm some kind of weird Christian who, that's not what's going on. Just look at reality. Let's take what we're being told and let's hold it up next to reality and see, does it make sense? It says, given the start of commercial acceptance and deployment of AI today, however, we believe that we have finally entered the perfect storm for the adoption of artificial intelligence in healthcare. Here are some reasons that they make to justify their system and to obviously compel people to invest in it. One is the cost of healthcare has been rising quicker than income. I wonder why that is. Why has the cost of healthcare risen faster than the average income? That's clearly by design. That's clearly on purpose. That's not just this is offered as though, oh, look at this unfortunate set of circumstances. This is a created scenario, a created circumstance. There's a reason that healthcare has, corporate healthcare anyway, corporate medicine has grown to the point that the average person would be destroyed by a major illness. According to a 2017 report by the World Bank and the World Health Organization, half of the world population cannot obtain essential health services. This has a very significant impact on economic wealth and political stability. Now, what they're talking about when they say essential health services, it's probably not what we're thinking. How much can you improve the health of an area with just clean water? Just providing clean water. We don't need an artificial intelligence in the palm of our hand to make everyone healthy. We don't need to shoot vaccines into everyone to make everyone healthy. We can just start with clean water. See, the assumption is that we need this technology to save us from ourselves. That is a deception. Just start with clean water. All of this investment that goes into this artificial intelligence could be spent on providing clean water to these developing nations that they like to use as the scapegoat so often. 2/3 of the cost of healthcare is the labor cost. There's another justification. Increases in productivity and efficiency in the labor force can have a tremendous impact on cost containment. The population in many countries is maturing, increasing the healthcare burden. Oh, that's a problem. It's a problem that population in many countries is maturing, I guess. That's a problem. If the population in many countries is maturing, to my sense of reasoning, that sounds like things are getting better. But this is offered as a problem. So many old people that need to be cared for is the point they're making. Computing has become dramatically more powerful, less expense, highly interconnected by the internet, and accessible through smartphones globally. Advances in artificial intelligence from radical improvements in algorithmic efficiency to the application of new learning techniques have made capabilities more aligned with real-world needs. More aligned with real-world needs. What are these real-world needs? What we have to pay attention to is what type of health care are they actually talking about? Are they talking about simple things like washing your hands with soap? You know, historically, things like that have been the acts or the discoveries that have made the most difference. Common sense ideas like wash your hands with soap, have clean drinking water. First, for the foreseeable future, artificial intelligence is likely to be used to boost the efficiency and productivity of the doctors and the medical staff in the healthcare industry rather than replace them. Clearly, that's a lie. Well, for the foreseeable future, they're telling us. You know, for now, they're telling us that it can't replace doctors just yet. But what that's saying is ultimately that's the goal. That's the plan, to have no human interaction. So how does an idea like this fit up to the primary study that we've been doing here? Well, how does it fit with Agenda 21, the push for communitarianism? Well, if we don't interact with a human being, let's say we don't interact with a human doctor, even if it's on your phone or a device, interacting with the human being is valuable. The type of healthcare that they're talking about is this idea of the corporate medical structure, the corporate industrial structure. In other words, program the AI to follow the Merck manual. Most, if not all, I just say most to be safe, doctors working in corporate healthcare have to follow the Merck manual for diagnosis. If not, the thing they're diagnosing probably is unlikely to be covered by the insurance company they're trying to get paid from. In Clint Richards' documentary series that will be coming out over the next few months, you get to see up close who the man Merck was and what that whole corporation has done to healthcare as an industry. In most cases, doctors aren't making diagnoses with their minds, with their skills. They're following a protocol that is the Merck manual. Do a little search for the Merck manual and see what you find. Merck, M-E-R-C-K. AI can powerfully assist in gathering and structuring patient data and symptoms, can communicate that information in a concise and powerful way to the medical staff, which can lead to higher productivity. Okay, what does that mean? They want to, right now you only get about 7 minutes on average with your physician at your appointment because they're stacking them up one after the other and they're still behind every day because every patient that comes through, that's a nice paycheck, every one that you get to come through. So you get about 7 minutes to see your doctor face to face, and he's in a hurry. He doesn't really have time for you. So what this is saying is that this is going to increase productivity. Now that term productivity doesn't have anything to do with your satisfaction or your health care. It has to do with getting more of you in and out. More and more billing. How much billing can we possibly do? Let's make it more productive. I would say that effectiveness would be a better goal than productivity. If you make a crap product, nobody cares. In this case, it's dangerous. As labor costs are the overwhelmingly largest component of medical costs in the healthcare industry, higher productivity effectively reduces per unit labor costs, which might dampen the staggering increases in healthcare costs over the past several decades. So how does this sort of thing fit up with Agenda 21? By isolating human beings from one another. By atomizing, A-T-O-M, atomizing. Separating us all into individual units that never interact with one another, or that very rarely. That's the goal. That's the push. That's communitarianism. It sounds like communitarianism sounds like we're all together. Look at us. We're just all together in our community. No, you're in the community, but you're separated from one another. That's the goal, to atomize the people. And to make it so that you don't have to leave your apartment to get anything that you need, including health care. To make it so that you don't ever have to leave your cell. That cell in the smart city, that cell that you live in, that open air prison of the future that is here already. Okay, so some of the key terms and concepts in artificial intelligence. This might get kind of dry for most folks, but we're talking about rules-based systems, expert systems, and machine learning. So let's just read machine learning. Due to the limits identified above in rules-based systems, artificial intelligence research shifted to developing numerous techniques and approaches which allow a computer to learn without explicit programming logic, but rather through observation of data and training. This introduces the concept of continuous learning and refinement. Continuous learning and refinement. Now there is the crux. Right there is what they would like for everyone to believe artificial intelligence really is continuous learning and refinement. Well, it can only learn as much as it observes, and it can only refine as much as it observes, or as much as it learns. Sorry, it can only learn as much as it observes, it can only refine as much as it learns. So who teaches it? Who actually teaches it? Are we to believe that this system can sit there unmolested and just observe its surroundings or the data that it's presented with, and then be able to make a proper decision? Or is it more likely Let's just use an example. Let's use the example of clean water. Let's just say that washing your hands with soap and make sure you're drinking clean water is something that's never told to you by a doctor in a corporate healthcare facility. It's just, that's not, they don't think of that. That's not what they're there to do. They're there to write prescriptions. That's how they get paid, by following the protocol, writing prescriptions. So let's just say, for instance, use that as a crude example. Well, is AI going to be, is that going to be part of the algorithm? Common sense. Wash your hands with soap. Make sure your water is clean, uncontaminated. Or is the first response going to be, let me write you this prescription. Let me give you this antidepressant here. I have to think that if a pharmaceutical corporation or industry is backing artificial intelligence, you got to think that the point is to make profit, to sell prescription drugs, vaccines, and treatments that people don't really need. Because the point of corporation is profit. That's a legal statement. Anything that someone who is a member of the board of a corporation, anything that any one of those people does that inhibits the profitability of that corporation can be deemed as a crime. That's the nature of the corporatocracy that we live in. So I'm very skeptical as to whether or not all of these wonderful platitudes that we hear coming from the technocracy all around us, that AI is going to solve all our problems. No, I think AI is just going to be another way that we're marketed to and exacted and sucked dry of our very life. That might sound severe, but if you could jump into the future 100 years and look and see what's going on there, I think that you might be surprised at what you see. You might be shocked. You might be shocked in 10 years at what you see. It says here, when a computer looks at an initial set of data, it may draw conclusions. Look at this terminology. It may draw conclusions. No, it's looking, I don't know how, I have to just dumb it down. The computer is selecting from possibilities. It can never do more than that. It cannot come up with something that it hadn't previously been designed to consider. So it may draw conclusions and develop a prediction capability that is weak but better than nothing. That's not a glowing endorsement. When a computer looks at an initial set of data, it may draw conclusions and develop a prediction capability that is weak but better than nothing. As it begins to observe billions of instances of data, it continues to refine its shaping of the required algorithms and increases the accuracy dramatically. Much like an athlete, the more training he undertakes, the better he becomes. What is the fallacy here? It's just blatant. It's right out there in the open. What is the fallacy of what this? Let me read it one more time just so we can make sure of what we're. When a computer looks at an initial set of data, it may draw conclusions based on what it's programmed to choose from. And it will create a prediction that at first might not be that good, but then as it observes billions of instances of data, it continues to refine its shaping of the required algorithms and increases the accuracy dramatically. Much like an athlete, the more training he undertakes, the better he becomes. What's the problem here? Think of the clean water example. If the machine is never shown or taught or programmed to consider something so basic as clean water, How can we assume that billions of instances of data are going to somehow be in our best interest? Especially when those who create the system are there to make profit off of the drugs that they make. Of course, in areas where data is readily available in some structured digital form, the ability to apply machine learning is greater. So I guess it's saying in developed countries, the digitization of health records is somehow going to make the AI more efficient. Well, how many people lie when they talk to the doctor? How many people leave things out or include things that are not true because they want to get a prescription of some kind? They need some Xanax, or they need some painkillers. All that's going to go into the system too. So I guess the retort to that would be, well, the AI is programmed to allow for certain things like that. In 2017, Stanford University introduced an algorithm called ChexNet that could analyze chest X-ray images and diagnose pneumonia on par with its human counterparts. And we've seen that diagnosing on par with the doctors in the corporate healthcare industry is not that good. It's not that good. At the very least, the number 3 leading cause of death in the United States is doctor error. As soon as that video is available from Clint, as soon as he releases that, I'll show that to you guys here. The fact that doctor error, prescription drugs, vaccines, treatments in general from corporate healthcare industry are, in a very measurable way, based on the data available, the 3rd leading cause of death in the U.S., right behind cancer and heart disease. What the documentary actually shows is that anecdotally, they're the number 1 cause of death. Over the past 2 decades, many techniques or approaches to machine learning have been developed to attack different learning and data requirements. No one single algorithm or technique can be used to learn from all the various data and observations. Again, it talks about these computer programs as though there's something that is able to make observations. A number of those are explained below. Often artificial intelligence researchers experiment with different approaches and compare results until the most efficient and accurate method to interpret the data is found. So the idea is that over a period of time, this network of computers, this network of silicon, is going to get better and better at diagnosing. And they want to take this into all the world. They want everyone in the world to have access to their prescription drugs in the palm of their hand. That isn't necessarily healthcare, my friends. That's marketing, pure and simple. Let's look at decision trees. A decision tree is a simple means of classifying used in machine learning based on a series of criteria factors. For instance, is the person greater than 40 years old? Has the person actively smoked for the past 10 years? The logic branches or splits left or right on the criteria. The classifications get assigned through a series on criteria branches. These are often cumbersome to develop and hard to modify once produced. The more accurate, precise, and decision a tree model, often the more complex it is requiring to be, with more branches and further branches. These are often hard to modify and scale once produced. So the Bayesian network and Linear regression. Let's look at linear regression. Has been around for a long time. Given two-dimensional space of x and y, it attempts to understand and express the mathematical relationship between those dimensions. Given x, it predicts what y is likely to be. This assumes that there is a linear and predictable pattern to the data. This assumes that there is a linear and predictable pattern to the data. Are human beings that predictable? Another point to make here is that the idea of communitarianism is to have everyone living the same life with the same amount of resources, universal basic income, as we've heard brought up recently. That's what that is. Everyone to live the same lifestyle so that, remember, Agenda 21's purpose is to inventory everything, inventory all the resources in the world, and to inventory all the human beings in the world. To make everyone the same so that they can be predicted and very easily managed. In the real world, there are many relationships that do not fit that criteria and many that do. For example, rainfall and crop yield is a simple form of linear relationship. Of course, in reality, it's not as simple as this, as there are many variables to consider. Once again, what would this linear relationship look like when you think of something as simple as clean water, washing your hands with soap? From the time people started doing that, the instance of disease dropped massively. And that is something simple. It doesn't require chemicals, prescription drugs. It's just something simple that people can do to make for a healthy environment and to increase the overall health of human beings in an area. So is the AI going to consider that? When we consider who it is that's giving us, that's presenting this tool to us, we have to be honest and consider that the purpose of this is to sell prescription drugs or to sell treatment protocols that are acceptable per the Merck manual. And if it don't sell, it doesn't fit into the protocol. So, Babylon Health. I thought that would be an interesting topic for today. The name says it all. Babylon believes that it is possible to put an accessible and affordable healthcare service in the hands of every person on earth. In other words, Babylon believes that we can build that tower. We can build that tower and we can move beyond what God has ordained. So let's go to Proverbs chapter 16, verse 25. There is a way that seems right to a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. We're in a fallen state, and our instincts are to be measured. Pleasant words are as a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and health to the bones. There is a way that seems right to a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Second Thessalonians chapter 2. Start with verse 10 for more context. And with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they might be damned who believe not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. God's word gives us many warnings about not leaning to our own understanding, Psalm 59 in verse 12, for the sin of their mouth and the words of their lips, let them even be taken in their pride. And for cursing and lying which they speak, consume them in wrath, consume them that they may not be. Let them know that God rules in Jacob unto the ends of the earth. Selah. Stop and think about it. What this means is these humanists who seek to exalt man above the Creator will be consumed by their own pride. I know what that feels like. I know exactly what that feels like. To be consumed by your own pride to the point where you think you're invincible. That's very common today. So let's be careful about what we choose to accept into our lives, because convenience, remember that convenience will be the death of liberty. Convenience will be the desire for convenience will be the downfall of many people who otherwise could have found the truth. Let's keep in mind that security is a concept, a term that's used against us quite often. Donald Trump right now, with his new idea of joining the Justice Department with the internet and social media, he wants to make the country more secure. He wants to make everyone more secure. Just remember, who are the most secure people on the planet? When you think about it, who has more security? Whose needs are met 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? And they don't even have to leave their cell. Prisoners have security. If you're willing to give up your liberty for more security, you don't deserve either one. God bless you all, my friends. See you next time.
She started up and I can't find anything. Out of my tubes and wires, can't from those.